Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Fair Sport. For today's preview, as Connacht take on Ospreys as the United Rugby Championship returns following the end of the final international window of the season, which means that now we've got your non-stop United Rugby Championship throughout December, throughout January, and the only time we'll start taking a break in terms of the northern teams is either for the European Champions Challenge Cup or for the Six Nations beginning of next year. For the South African teams, pretty much all out URC action until about June, really, until the next window. So quite an extended period of the season and time for us really to get our hands dirty in terms of really getting stuck into the URC and understanding how all the teams are going to fare in various conditions, because we will be seeing games taking place in South Africa for the first time this weekend. But not this game. This game will be at the Sports Ground in Ireland as Connacht welcome the Welsh side of Ospreys, who have got off to a decent start in the competition itself. And it should be quite an interesting clash, because I think both these sides have had some very, very positive moments throughout the tournament, maybe even performing a little bit better than some would have actually expected. So Connacht are down at the moment, currently down in ninth, whilst Ospreys currently sitting in fifth place. So reasonable starts for the season. I think Connacht played well enough to have done a little bit better, but I think Ospreys are well worth their position on the table. But before we look at the teams themselves, please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Don't expect to see too many internationals this weekend. A couple of players are being rested in and around all the sides, all the various sides. The South African side, a lot of the Springboks are unavailable, and much the same for the European sides as well. But in terms of the two teams, this is how Connacht will line up. There's a couple of very, very nice players in and amongst this Connacht side, including, what's quite exciting, is 21-year-old South African-born Shane Bolton, who will get his debut for Connacht this weekend. And he actually qualifies for Ireland through his grandmother. And so he's potentially, another, or the latest maybe, a name of a South African who could in the future push to play for another country. Although with the new ruling, could very well go on play for Ireland, take 3 years sabbatical, and then come back and play for South Africa. But yes, very exciting to see what he can do this weekend. And as well as a very big moment for hooker Dave Heffernan, who will make his 150th appearance for the club on tomorrow night. So in terms of the side, so this is how the Connacht will line up. In the front, we got Matthew Berg next to Dave Heffernan and Finney Beelan. So reasonable experience there. The 30-year-old, obviously, of David Heffernan making, sort of cementing that sort of front row. Then in the second row, you've got the likes of Niall Murray and Ilton Delane. And then in the back row, you've got Jared Butler, Connor Oliver, and Paul Boyle. Paul Boyle's playing some nice rugby at the moment, and hopefully can sort of continue that form there. In the halfback combination, it will be Kieran Mamian and Jack Carty. I'm a big Jack Carty fan. I'd like to see more of him. As somebody who's sort of coming into the URC quite sort of fresh face, and obviously you know the internationals, you don't know other players around. A couple of names are sort of starting to jump out at you, and it's very fun to just sort of see new players, see how new teams and how they play. And then the rest of the backline, Mac Hansen and Alex Rutten are the two wings, and then Sammy Arnold will be the partner to the South African centre, who starts at outside centre, and then Oren McNulty is the fullback. Off the bench, Shane Delahint, Jordan Duggan, and Jack Ungia. Then you've got Austin Darling, Hugo Masterson, Colin Blade, Connor Fitzgerald, and Peter Robb rounding off the bench for Connacht. What's quite interesting, I think, going to be very interesting for South African fans, is this game is at the Sports Ground, obviously, in Ireland, and now we are pretty much in December. It's the last round that will actually take place in November. So now we will really start to see that sort of those northern hemisphere conditions that we sort of talk about, very wet, very cold sort of conditions, and we start sort of see how the tactical side of things. And what will be quite interesting is now playing in very wet conditions. What will be quite interesting to see how the 50-22 gets implemented and whether they manage to use it a bit more effectively. Obviously, when your sort of 4G pitches, the artificial pitches, 50-22 very much comes into its own, because the pitch will play true. There will be no puddles or anything like that, so the ball won't sort of really hold up, so it'll steal off the surface, which will allow players to be able to use 50-22 more effectively, but especially in conditions where the ball's going to be quite slippery, probably quite a lot of errors and quite tight, to suddenly be able to bring the 50-22 rule into play. It should be quite interesting to sort of see how that comes in. And then in terms of the side for Ospreys, so Reece Webb will captain the side at scrum half, and a couple of very, very nice players to keep your eye on this weekend. So, hooker, Alvis Tayone, who is playing for what could be a very, very good Tonga side in a couple of years with the now law change that players who have played, basically taken a 3-year sabbatical from their previous national team can qualify and play for other nations where they can sort of prove their residence and their affiliation, stuff like that. So he's got 29 international caps actually for his country, and he picked out a couple of players, and a couple of the players that he mentioned was the likes of a Jack Morgan in the number 7 jersey, but obviously two very big players for Ospreys are Bradley Davis and Welsh squad member Rhys Davies in the second row, who didn't manage to get onto the pitch for Wales this past sort of window, but it's a very, very nice player. But in the front row, we're going to have Nicky Smith and Tom Buerta on either side of Alvis Tayone, and then you've got Bradley Davis, Rhys Davies, Sam Cross, Jack Morgan and Ethan Roots. The captain, Reece Webb, will partner Stephen Myler in the halfback pairing. Luke Morgan, Max Nagy, and Dan Evans is the back three. Your centre pairing for Ospreys is Joe Hawkins and Owen Watkin. Off the bench for the men from Wales, Sam Perry, Gareth Thomas, Reece Henry, Will Griffiths, also a very nice player, Morgan Morris, Ruben Morgan Williams, Josh Thomas, and Kai Evans. It should be an interesting clash. As I said, I think, we're looking at the sort of the form. Connacht have played 5-1-2, but I think they've actually drawn a couple. So I think they're a side who can push a lot of teams. I think they played well enough actually to have gotten more out of the tournament so far. Ospreys at the moment are 4 wins out of 5. And just 1 loss. So it's been some very, very impressive rugby so far played from the men from Wales. And I think very much a project which has been sort of built up for quite a while. And now we're really starting to see the impact of Toby Booth, who is currently the head coach of Ospreys. But if you look at the previous results, then in the round before we took the break, Connacht beat Ulster 36 points, 11, what was probably their most impressive showing of the tournament. And that same weekend, Ospreys actually beat Munster 18 points to 10 down in Swansea. Before that, Connacht went down to Munster just 20 points to 18, whilst Ospreys beat Pennington 29-26. In round 3, Connacht went down to Dragons 22 points to 35. It was a very nice game, that. And Ospreys, where are we at? Went down to the Sharks. That was the only game they've lost. So they've had a couple of very close games of Connacht and Ospreys as well, where they've played very well, not necessarily gotten enough reward for it. But let me know what your score predictions are down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. I'm very excited the URC is back now that we can sort of take a break from international rugby, especially as a South African fan, where Springboks will not be in action until about June. It's time to really get back into our franchise and provincial rugby and Currie Cup, and you've got Varsity Cup and stuff like that, and just sort of get a bit more sort of pipeline view, in terms of who's coming through, which players are nice players to watch, which players want to make me turn on the TV and want to watch, more than just a case of my nation is playing or there's international rugby, therefore I should watch it. Which players, which teams really want me make me want to turn the TV on and watch them. But let me know if you've got a favorite side down in the comments below. Smash a like on the videos and subscribe to the channel as well. My name is Stephen. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll chat to you soon.